Good morning. This is the second Saturday in January 2021. From a number of my videos and certainly my postings in blogs, it will be quite apparent that this speaker has a great love of poetry, and that I delight from time to time in hearing what comes to the inner man and releasing it through a poem, whether it rhymes or whether not. Well, this whole process can be traced back to my mother reading to me and giving to me a book by Robert Louis Stevenson, A Child's Garden of Verse. And it was a sweet thing with many images that would capture certainly the imagination of a youngster, and the catchiness of the rhyme and the words and the color and the phraseology was all there. I remember a particular one where a child is sitting window side on a seat in a train, and in his own sense of logic he's describing the things that are racing by his field of view outside. Beautiful. I read it now with the same delight as I did beside Bev Blair, my mother. I have one that I just happened upon in reading through a book of select poetry by Stevenson entitled Requiem. One might think this is largely for a funeral, and it probably is, but my, what a wonderful description of the prospect of heaven and of the end of the journeyings and the arrival of inexplicable peace and sense of being home. Requiem. Under the wide and starry sky, dig the grave and let me lie. Glad did I live and gladly die, and I laid me down with a will. This be the verse you grave for me. Here he lies where he longed to be. Home is the sailor from the sea, and the hunter home from the hill. How simple. I found another one in the same book. It was part of a Christmas message he gave at some point. It's entitled, To Be Honest, To Be Kind. To be honest, to be kind, to earn a little and to spend a little less, to make upon the whole a family happier for his presence, to renounce when that shall be necessary and not embittered, to keep a few friends, but these without capitulation. Above all, on the same grim condition, to keep friends with himself. Here is a task for all that a man has of fortitude and delicacy. Well, Stevenson gave us these delightful poems, stories of adventure that would thrill a young boy in the East End of London in his reading chair while the darkness and chill outside was forgotten. Stories of South Sea Islands and treasure and pirates and mystery and vigor. Stories of contentious Scottish hills in times of great history and struggle. Poems also of the sea, poems of his wanderings, poems of how his dear wife accommodated what needed to happen for the sake of the man's poor health. All his life he'd had breathing problems and was much in convalescence. A lot of the images he draws from in that children's book have to do with a kid stuck in his bed, exercising his imagination. And this health concern led Stevenson to the South Sea Isles and to a life in which he fully absorbed their cultures, their legends, their color, their costume, their song, their dance. And oh, it was hard on his wife. And oh, it was such relief and adventure in the heart and mind for this writer this imaginer of great tales. And his last days were spent in such a place, with the bright birds above and the cooling winds coming off the surf at the beach. Well, that's all I say. I thought you might be interested in a bit about Stevenson. One other thing, and I think I'll append this to this YouTube video, Christmas at Sea. I remember seeing a concert with the talented musician and singer Sting, and it was in a cathedral, and it included this poem put to music. And oh, what a wonderful story it is about a guy who took to roaming under the sails and in all sorts of locales. But on this particular Christmas, he found himself laboring in miserable weather as crew member on a sailing ship in the bay just beyond the village where he was born. And the family, no doubt, gathered around a Christmas meal, wondering what had become of their wanderer son. I'll leave it with that. Thanks very much for listening. This is Doug Blair of Waterloo, Ontario.